Hey gang, we are back at the Rose Hill Mausoleum here on the northeast side of Chicago. Quite a dramatic place. And I'm standing in one of the rotundas here. Absolutely marvelous. And nobody visits here. Well, hardly at all. Because these are the crypts of the big names from the olden days. And today we are going to visit the crypt of, well, we're going to go back to February of 1843. On a cold February day, a young boy was born. His name was Aaron Montgomery Ward. Quite an interesting story. We're going to go to the family crypt of the Wards, and we're going to be passing by the Shed Chapel. All interconnects. Of course, this is where Richard Warren Sears is also. So as we go back in time, I'll tell you a little bit about the young man who was born in New Jersey. And he came from a family of, well, it was a middle-class family. They were doing pretty good. And went to the public schools, and by the time he was 14 years old, it was like, okay, son, you got to start contributing to the family. You've got to go to work. So he went to work for a barrel company as a cutter, you know, the staves. And then he did some brick, making bricks, and a shoemaker. A lot of odd jobs, but by the time he was 15 years old, it didn't take long. He's getting ambitious and anxious, and he says, I'm going to head west. So he ended up in heading towards Chicago. Ultimately, he ended up in St. Joseph, Michigan, and there he worked as a salesman, getting into the retail market, traveling salesman, and got some promotions. But in 1865, he would make his way to Chicago. And Chicago was, among other things, a bustling, growing city, of course. But it was the epicenter for wholesale dry goods. Have you heard of Potter Palmer? Right? If you go to Graceland Cemetery, you can see the Palmer family. He was one of the first big State Street, they owned State Street. And of course, Marshall Field would work with him, and they'd become partners, and this would ultimately lead to Marshall Fields and Company. So this whole dry goods thing, Chicago, the epicenter. And speaking of Marshall Fields, his right-hand man was John G. Shedd. Now, we did an episode on John G. Shedd. We have the Shedd Aquarium, very famous in Chicago. And here you see this right here is the Shed Chapel that we're in. Quite a dramatic space, and this is the front of the old mausoleum. If you look up here, that was the old entrance, locked up now. You have to come through the modern way. But what's really amazing here is the crypt of the Shedd family. Now, if you want to hear the story, and there's some haunted mansion stuff, I'll put a link in, of this family, the Schweppes. But anyway, let's head to the crypt of Montgomery Ward. And he's right over here. Now, Richard Warren Sears is right. He's got his own little area. You guys have seen that. But down this dark corridor is the Aaron Montgomery Ward family. Now, what's interesting, before we enter that dark corridor, I'll finish the story. So, he worked for Fields, actually, on Potter and all that for a couple of years here in Chicago. And he'd be traveling the crossroads, traveling, meeting farmers. And they're all complaining because all they can do is go to the general store. The general store like you see in the Western frontier movies, the mom and pop. Just basic stuff. They couldn't get their hands on these fine goods from the city. And they had to pay extra. So Aaron Montgomery Ward, Monty, he got this bright idea, and he's like, hey, I'm gonna create this business where I'll use the train system, and we'll get the goods to you at wholesale prices. Oh boy, did that tick off the little farmer stores out in the country. They did not like that. Well, they would find out pretty quick. Now, when he started the business, sadly, within the first year or two, I believe it was, I know it was 1871, we had the great Chicago fire. It took out his whole inventory. It just devastated his company, lost everything. And what did he do? Well, he picked right back up again. And everybody thought he was crazy. In fact, they thought it was a bad idea. Like, what do you, mail order? Well, you've heard that story before. Well, he started it. His first catalog was only one page. He wrote it himself. And it just, needless to say, it took off. And he's the guy who coined the phrase money back guarantee. He's the first one to do that. And literally the stores, they got so mad, they would take his catalogs, try to get them and burn them, like literally burn them. So make a long story short, we all know what Montgomery Ward turned into. And by the way, in 1939, there was a copywriter named Robert Louis May, and he would write the pamphlet Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer. I'll put that link in too for Christmas. That's where it all started. It all started here with the Wards. And this is the family crypt of Aaron Montgomery Ward. So unfortunately, it is locked. We can't get in there, but you can see here the beautiful brass works. Look at that door. And we will take a peek in there because there are some big openings. Look at the detail of this. Isn't this beautiful? And there's a beautiful stained glass back set up there. Well, let me put the light in here. Let's see what we can see, right? Let's get over here. Let's find, here's a big opening. We can see what's going on. And I believe that is A. Montgomery Ward. There he is. 1843, and he passed in 1913. I think his wife is Elizabeth Cobb Ward. So we'll have to check that. There. Yeah, there's just, it's just some amazing. And there's a bench in there also, I can see. Let's see, it's kind of hard to. Unfortunately, this light, this LED light, I think is. But there it is, yeah, the Wards. They're just forgotten here down this dark corridor here. All by themselves. At Rosehill, at the Rosehill Mausoleum. All right, well, we'll bid farewell. We'll bid farewell to Aaron Montgomery Ward and family. And I'm gonna go explore. There's a lot to see here. Maybe we'll have some more from the Rose Hill Mausoleum. All right, y'all, stay safe.